streaming and reviewing mods and video games. It sets the land in 7 seasons, centuries have passed, until the day a hero named Merit obeyed this task. Deep dark gaming, we love to play video games. We'll keep playing until we're early morning. Deep dark gaming, we explain mods and games. Deep dark gaming, we sell my games and more. As Mariner set off on his quest to new and hit a crew, the navigator joined the ranks and so did Mr. Q. Sailing for adventure, stories and for treasure. We will help you through, so climb aboard and join the crew. Deep dark gaming, we love to play video games. We'll keep playing until the early morning. Deep dark gaming, we explain mods and games. Deep dark gaming, we sell the games and more.
Ahoy divers, and welcome back to Deep Dive Gaming, where we are resuming.
Uh-oh.
Oops. What happened there? We had a sound issue.
Lagged for a half second there.
Yeah. Hopefully everything is cool, but anyways, we are back to further our discussion of Final Fantasy VII OG Steam version, or whatever. I am, of course, the Mariner, and we have Hiro on the docket. Say hello, Hiro.
Hello. Hello, hello.
And Tyradeth is not quite here yet, so I will actually take his icon off. And
Just for now.
Queue up the playthrough feed thing. Words are hard today.
Oh, yeah.
So,
After the day that we've both had, I'm sure.
yeah. It's ugly. It's
No,
very ugly.
Yeah, I'll let you take the lead for a second. I'm going to go reach out to him to see what's up.
All right. Well, let's see. To recap last week, because I think I was paying enough attention, we were talking about how... let me bring up my wiki here, because we were going through some of the details of Final Fantasy as far as like the characters go. Actually, we never actually got to the characters, so we could dig into that. We also were talking about like the new art system, or the new combat system. We were talking about ahoy, lover, how are you doing? Let's see, we were talking about, if I can remember, the, let's see, nope, that's 6. Why am I getting on 6? I want 7. Final Fantasy 7. VII. There we go. There we go. So, combat, go to the field, mini-games, settings. Alright, we'll go into some of the discussion about the setting, because I can't remember if we did that or not. So, I take it back. We have talked about this. I'm seeing familiar words like Gaia. I'm seeing words like live stream that I made fun of last week, asking if the name was called Twitch or YouTube. We have ancients who call themselves Sutra.
I'm sorry, that was funny.
Talking about how Cloud is a soldier working for working for a small terrorist organization known as Avalanche. Let's see, in the metropolis of Midgar. So let's get into some of the nitty about the different characters of Final Fantasy VII. The one that is the most familiar to most people mostly is Cloud Strife.
Ah, yes.
Former soldier who now operates as a merc, caught up in the actions of the eco-terrorist Avalanche, and although initially uncaring toward the mission, He has a change of heart when he begins to discover his shrouded past. Ooh. And then we got Barrett Wallace, the leader of Avalanche, who wields a gun on his right arm. Who wields a gun as his right arm, should be the way that reads, in place of his injured hand. Despite his brash and loudmouth personality, he's a caring person who loves his daughter, Marlene. Let's see. Tifa Lockhart. Measurements 92, 34, 36, if I can remember correctly. Cloud's childhood friend and member of Avalanche, runs this bar 7th Heaven in the Sector 7 slums, which serves as the group's hideout. Her sympathetic exterior hides fearsome fighting skills. Actually, I think it was 72, 34, 36, or something along those lines. Anywho, Alice Gainsborough, flower girl from Sector 5 slums who befriends Cloud. Cloud's resemblance to someone she used to know mystifies Eris. Then she joins him and Avalanche on their quest to discover more about her heritage. And then we got Red 13. There's a quadrupedal flame red beast capable of speech. The party rescues him from capture by Shinra. He speaks a little, but when he does, his words are often important. Kate Sith, a robotic cat atop a stuffed Mog, giggity. He operates as a fortune teller at the Gold Saucer. He shouts commands to his Mog in battle using a megaphone. And then Sid Highwind, the foul-mouthed, chain-smoking pilot of Rocket Town, dreams of being the first man in space. His dreams are were foiled, when he is forced to abort the mission. Despite his bitter attitude, Sid has a good heart and cares about his friends. Then you got two optional characters. Do we have a Tyrion Death in the chat? Hello, Tyrion
Yes,
Death.
we do.
How's it going, sir?
Hmm.
I love the non-committal sound. Let's go with it.
Yes,
So-
we are rolling with it.
Yeah, I was just going through the different characters. And ahoy, Foxy. I lurk as I am also stream.
Now,
I stream, therefore I am, and I lost the thing. I don't know
I was
why.
gonna say-
I don't know why that happens. I have to leave it up on top, playing, so I can't monitor OBS as well. But anywho, so we've got a couple of optional characters. Yuffie Kisaragi, first encountered as the mystery ninja, but can be randomly encountered in any forest. The self-professed materia hunter, she is sneaky and playful and hunts materia to restore her home of Wutai to its former glory. And then we got Vincent Valentine, discovered sleeping in a coffin at Shinra Mansion in Nibelheim. Is a former Turk with a traumatic past. After being subjected to numerous experiments, Vincent became able to transform into monstrous form, but sealed himself in a coffin due to guilt in his past. Like Red 13, he speaks little but offers helpful advice when he does. And I double-checked, I am talking about the original Final Fantasy VII, not the remake.
So, to tell you 100% the truth, the backstory to every character is the same, regardless of which version you're playing. I think I don't know if I'd stressed it enough to make the point last time, but the overarching narrative between the remake and the original is the same. Really, the only difference is how each story beat is presented. At least that's how I felt with the, at this point, first half of the game, because the second half hasn't been released in remake yet.
Oh, shooky darns. I just realized I don't have my settings correct for streaming. Let's see, output, I think it was 8,000. It was really the only thing that was wrong.
Yeah. Then you can probably switch to
Devices.
add Terran Death back to it.
So what now?
You can add Tierndet's icon back.
Oh,
now.
yeah. There you go, Chindeth. Any input on the characters so far?
Oh,
The characters
Eris.
themselves, not so much.
Eris is known as Aerith with the TH in the English version.
Okay, I just read off of the screen. I don't remember these games from when I ever actually played.
No, that's
That
fine.
was
That's
one
why
of
I
those. That was one of those rooms where I couldn't figure out how to cross because I didn't have any path. I thought the background pipes were just background pipes. I didn't realize I could actually walk on them. That was one of the first hurdles I had in this game was figuring out how to traverse the quote-unquote terrain.
Oh yeah, perspectives were quite weird. Oh, those things were annoying.
Also, I should mention in the new year, I'm going to be streaming Final Fantasy VII, or a Final Fantasy VII playthrough. Probably Twitch, YouTube, probably Rumble as well. The intention is to get Restream set up with a paid account that'll allow me to do an additional stream. I'm also considering like only getting as far as like wherever disc 1 would be and then taking a break from Final Fantasy, doing something else for a month or two and then coming back and resuming. Hopefully there won't be as big of delays with that as there were with getting Mass Effect done. So I don't
Usually
know.
if there's a gap, it makes it easier.
Yeah. I don't know if I had a running calendar. I don't remember the calendar date from when I first started Mass Effect, but I'm thinking more than 18 months.
That was a little sad, she says.
That's part
Mojo, come on.
That's
Be
part
nice.
that's part of the thing I've been working on is trying to like commit to a single game for a certain amount of time, so that one, my followers don't lose the plot of the story, but two, I don't lose the plot of the story. Yes, man, kitty. You've been fed. I know you have. Okay, come here. So, anyone want to add anything else, or is there any other discussion topics to be had on this game?
Mojo's clarifying. Was talking about the playthrough last night when the stream died.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little fault. My commentary on Eris versus Aerith. That was one point. The other point is your mystery character Cloud. Well, I don't feel like they really, just my opinion, in the original, I don't feel like they were able to show that narrative nearly as well in the original as they did in the remake, as far as his personality, why he was always so standoffish, or how he was always standoffish. It was just they displayed it as basically people talking to him and his only reply being ... or a half-hearted reply, or at least what seemed to be a half-hearted reply. So I feel like they actually portrayed the narrative of Cloud's personality a lot better in the remake. And it could just be how I inferred things at the time versus how I inferred things when I played the remake. So I will leave it at that. Tierndeth, feel free to offer input. I know you have a slightly differing perspective on some things concerning Final Fantasy VII.
One of the big things to pay attention to in that game is your materia. Um, depending on how you or which ones you put on there, you can make or break a character.
And that maintains, even in the remake. Your materia is crucial. There were different, and it becomes much, I feel like it became much more evident when I played the remake. It became much more evident when I was trying to face off against certain bosses, certain complete certain challenges. The one thing that I will say is that mini games in the remake are a lot. There's a lot of mini games in remake. I mean, a lot of them, and some of them are mundane, like different things that you have to do to advance the story and get certain outcomes. Others are challenge-based oriented, like you actually have gliding objectives with the chocobo in certain places with remake. You actually have different button combination or button rhythm type mini games for advancement of story components. And there's a whole additional character added in the remake that he's a whole additional character that wasn't in the original, but he's an NPC, so it's like it affects the gameplay because he's part of the gameplay, but it doesn't affect the overall narrative of the story. But he presents to you a series of challenges varying between exploration, combat objectives with enemy encounters, boss rushes, excuse me, and the boss rushes are actually a big deal because it will affect your summons materia. And some of those boss rushes and combat objectives you absolutely cannot complete if you do not, one, you're not far enough advanced in the main storyline to obtain specific materia, and two, if you don't have the right party makeup to go with the right materia equipped. And each character, just like they have a different weapon type and a different fighting style in the original, each character has a different combat-based mechanic. Obviously, Tifa's fighting mechanic is based off of her, her martial arts. She has, her gauges will fill up a lot faster than, say, Cloud's. Cloud uses a two-handed sword. She uses her fists. With every connection of her fists, her gauges fill up. They fill up a lot smaller amounts than what Cloud's does because he's got a slower weapon and and all that. But everything fills up at different rates based off of hit count, based off of guard. You gotta also, the way the combat works in remakes, you have to alternate characters frequently in order to fill your limit gauge faster, because party actions, individual specials, and hit counts all affect your limit break counter. So the more you switch your characters and the different techniques you use for each character, the different specials you use for each character, basically my methodology was I burn through all the cooldowns on a character, then I switch. Burn through all the cooldowns again on a character, and then switch. you've got 3 characters to work with, so it can get very hectic. But with somebody like me, ADHD go burr. So combat, while it's different, you could almost argue stays the same. It's definitely not turn-based though.
The other side of the materia builds is the materia linking.
Oh yeah.
Things like pairing counterattack with, say, Knights of the Round, if you've got it. Good luck.
Why do you say that?
That's like a mid-game materia.
No. Knights of the Round is late game.
Ah.
And you get it by breeding out, or breeding and racing your chocobos till you get the black one.
Ah.
Because that's the one that can go over any and all terrain. And water. Without it, you can't get to the cave that the Knights of the Round is in. Knights of the Round is actually homaged in Final Fantasy XIV in the second expansion, or in the Heavensward expansion. However, in this particular case, it's I think 12 or 13 knights that come out and do their own attacks.
12.
And each one is brutal, potentially capping out at max damage on each attack if you have it fully leveled and your character has the right stats. Also, you have to keep in mind that sometimes that counterattack with that is going to end the combat, and not necessarily in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Do tell.
I learned that one the hard way when I had a boss that it didn't quite kill because he had a story stop.
Oh.
And so it only took him halfway when it should have actually killed him. And because it took him from the beginning of the fight to the middle of the fight, and I hadn't had full preparation done for anything that he might have come up with, I got every single status effect that he could throw at me in one turn, and got slaughtered. All 3 characters, one shot, one turn.
Mm.
And for anyone wondering what might have happened to the sound, I forgot that a game I had running in the background to burn time had its audio turned on, so I have now fixed that.
Yeah, so where I am at in Final Fantasy VII, at least as far as remake is concerned, I have not come across Knights of the Round. Wouldn't make sense to anyways. Considering it's basically, if I understand correctly, it's the halfway point of the game. I can't remember what Tierndeth had said last week about it. But trying to think here, you get in remake, I think there's more summons available than there were originally? Question mark? It's just there's some summons that I've seen, there's summons that I've seen in Final Fantasy VII Remake / Rebirth that I've never seen in Final Fantasy before. there is, well, I know Gilgamesh is a summon that's available in the original, but interestingly enough, Gilgamesh himself is a very interesting character and has a very interesting story added to Rebirth. I don't think this story is something that was in the original. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tyrion Death. What do you remember about Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy VII?
Specifically, not much. It's been probably a couple of decades since I played through.
Definitely not a couple of decades, but at least one.
No, it's been a couple of decades since I played to the point where I ran into Gilgamesh.
Wow. Well, what I can specifically say is that you do encounter Gilgamesh in the overworld, and for some reason he's seeking out certain relics that Cloud happened to find. And by the middle point, like basically you don't run into him in Remake at all, but in Rebirth you run into him about, I want to say 4 times. And that's in Rebirth alone. That's the second, I guess I'm guessing the second disc of the game. And every time you run into him, he's trying to get his hands on the relics that you find. Come to find out, they're different armaments of his that he lost when he was traveling to different worlds, which strikes me as something kind of sort of added from 14. And when you get all of the relics, he basically invites you to challenge him at his hidden grotto where he first entered the world that you're on. So when you show up there, it becomes a challenge where you have to face off against all of your summons powered up to their max, the max level of their materia. And it's not just one summon, it's 2 at a time. And that's one of those cases where your materia, what materia you have equipped and what people you're using in your party matter a lot. And that's part of, basically that's the challenge you have to face in order to face off against Gilgamesh. And then Gilgamesh, up until that point, let's just say that his personality is like, how oh, good Lord, Mojo. I know that Gilgamesh and Gargamel are 2 very different characters, but I see Gargamel every time someone says Gilgamesh. Oh Lord. To describe the personality that Gilgamesh has up until this point, and even at this point when you're facing him, I feel like he has the same personality as Goku from Dragon Ball.
You're definitely going to need to elaborate on that because I don't get that reference at all.
Let's just say absent-minded protagonist that's always looking for somebody really strong to fight because they're bored.
Yeah.
And I think that matches his mission to a T just about. And on top of that, he's very, very zany, if you will. Like, he's got a freaking 2-bit commentary every time you, just about every phase of the fight. Every time he transitions to a new technique, he's shouting out something really righteous, and then you're avoiding his attack, and then you're hitting him from a different direction so that his attack doesn't take you out or take your character out before you have to use a revive or something. Because he's strong as heck. But my God, the commentary he has and picking out his attack patterns, not too difficult. It's nailing the timing for avoiding damage and dealing additional damage to him. The timing is kind of hard to pinpoint perfectly. Anyways, does that about fit it? Does that about fit the character at all, Terran Death, or do you not remember at all?
As stated, I don't really remember much about the character in Final Fantasy 4 or 7, but it doesn't sound like he's changed much over the years, and about the same way he acts about the same way in Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, so you do encounter Gilgamesh in 14.
Many times through an entire quest line.
Oh. But once you defeat him, you do get him as a summon. And he's less cuckoo when you summon him. He does, pose and kind of reminds me of, Power Rangers / Ginyu Force when he poses. But he is a really powerful summon, and as you level up your summons, the base character that the summons materia is equipped to does gain stat bonuses based off of what materia you have equipped. So that's a good thing. Oh my
When there are
gosh.
stat-based materia, they're usually red. And even some of the summons give you stats.
That's what I was
Plus or
saying.
minus. There's HP materia, MP materia, which are typically blue. The agility materia, I think, are usually red or yellow. But HP can add, or the HP ones usually add strength, obviously, health points, and so on. MP usually adds magic power and mana points. And then, of course, agility makes it harder for them to hit you, and that's usually agility and accuracy.
Yeah, the color materia don't really change too much as far as what they do, although the yellow materia I think is slightly different. It does more than just it does more than just agility. It affect the yellow. Okay, so your defensive materia are purple. Your spells and some other features are green. your mana base are blue. Actually, yeah. And the yellows are more than just agility. They're also physical abilities like steel. Does that sound about right? It's like steel, AP
Yeah.
up.
We're talking about the yellows.
Yeah.
Steel, AP up, counterattack,
Yep. Counterattack. I remember that
uh,
one.
multi-attack. Although I think that one's red.
I don't remember
Mug,
multi-attack. Yep. Mug, which is
which
steel and
actually
bandage
is
at the same time.
upgraded version of steel.
Yep. I think they might have. Yeah, they might have made it so that once you get steel leveled up enough as far as materia is concerned, I think they made it so that it does upgrade to mug. So it's mug is not a separate materia. It's just leveled up version of steel. But there's a lot of things that as much as and I can't stress enough, as much as remake and rebirth are different from the original Final Fantasy, it is also the same. Some people just, I think, just were afraid of the change and just are not too partial to the cash grab, which unfortunately, if I had to say, or if I had to offer an opinion, unfortunately, you're just not going to get away from the cash grab in the modern era of gaming.
Yeah. They need to make their money somewhere, considering they can't make original games anymore.
Seems like it, yes.
And that's the problem. It's also why I'm not going to be going and getting the new one.
So
Not
I'm going to
unless
be
it's an
going and get.
likes it, right?
That's why I'm going to be streaming the OG.
But at any rate,
Yeah, any right. Let's see if there's anything else on this fandom page. Let's see. Did we get into the release history for this game?
we didn't talk too much about that.
So we got the original release January 31st, 1997 in Japan, and later that year on September 7th in North America, and in October 2 or on October 2nd internationally. Its United States marketing budget amounted to $100 million spent on a 3-month marketing campaign. This consisted of 3 30-second television advertisements found in Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons, and on channels such as ESPN and MTV, as well as print adverts within magazines such as Rolling Stone and Spin, and within comic books by DC Comics and Marvel Comics. The $145 million budget, of which $45 million was development costs and the rest marketing, made it the most expensive video game release of all time until Star Wars The Old Republic in 2011, even when not taking into account inflation.
Huh.
So Final Fantasy VII was released on 3 discs. Disc 1 comprised the events of number 1 reactor bombing to parting with Aerith. Disc 2 comprises the events from Beyond the Snowfields to Mako Cannon Rampage. Disc 3 comprises the events from Feelings from the Heart of Every Place to the Planet's Judgment. And then Okay, North American and PAL releases of Final Fantasy VII made substantial changes to the original Japanese version. Several areas of gameplay have been made more difficult by adding in new bosses. Random battle cuts were cut down. Materia swapping between characters was made easier. New flashbacks of Tifa meeting the semi-conscious Cloud on a train station, and a flashback of Cloud and Zack escaping Nibelheim, are also added in. Games North American cover drew inspiration from promotional materials for the 1962 film Lawrence of Arabia. Woof. That was an interesting choice. This version was re-released on PlayStation Network in North America June 2nd, 2009, and in Europe and Australia on June 4th of the same year. Re-release made it playable on PlayStation 3, PlayStation Portable, PlayStation Vita consoles. Downloaded 100,000 times within the first 2 weeks of release, making it the fastest selling PlayStation game on the network. And then we got the international version. Game changes made to the North American version were re-released in Japan as Final Fantasy VII International, the first international version, a semi-recurring feature of the series. It includes Final Fantasy VII Perfect Guide, a special 4th disc with maps, character information, design sketches, and other trivia. A later limited version, Final Fantasy VII International Advent Pieces Limited, was released in a collectible metal case that could be assembled into a display stand. This version was re-released on PlayStation Network April 10th, 2009. And then we got the PC versions in 98 and 2012. I think we talked about those last time. I also think we talked about the iOS and PlayStation 4 versions. And then you got the PlayStation Classic. On December 3rd, 2018, Sony released a PlayStation Classic mini console, which includes the original Final Fantasy VII among 19 other games. This version includes a save state feature not available in earlier versions. I might have to go find myself a PlayStation Classic.
I don't think they're hard. Well, I honestly don't think they're too hard to find. I could be wrong.
I don't know. But I already have enough trouble playing on my consoles as it is. I have not played on my Switch in a month, maybe 2. So I'm a bad gamer. I'm a great streamer. I'm a bad gamer.
It's been a minute since I picked my Switch back up, but I've also been slowly trudging through Cyberpunk 2077. Plus, I've been kind of distracted from gaming lately.
Yes, very distracted. Yep. Okay, so anyone... Let's see, I did that section. Do we have anything? Let's see. Do you have the wiki page open there, Hiro?
I could have it open, certainly. Which wiki?
I'm on the fandom. What does the other wiki say about the critical reception?
Let's see. Localization, later releases, reception, and sales. Okay. Within 3 days of its release in Japan, Final Fantasy VII sold over 2 million copies. Read it and weep, people. A successful game in 3 days.
Yes.
In 3 days, sold over 2 million copies. Compare that to modern releases of AAA titles, my friends.
Or quadruple A if you're Ubisoft.
I have so much shade to throw. This popularity inspired thousands of retailers in North America to break street dates in September to meet public demand for the title. That's something that's unheard of today.
Yeah,
you break a street date.
Mojo's got another point. The fact that it came out as a completed game.
Think about that.
Yeah, no
In
joke.
gaming, if you break your street date, as in if you sell before the embargo is lifted or before the day that the retailer, well, that the distributor tells you you're allowed to sell, you lose your right to market from that distributor ever again. Think about that. If, like, for example, if any one of you worked in retail and you suddenly were no longer allowed to sell product or buy product from a singular vendor, that would break your business. And these
Yes.
people did it.
Oof.
Anyways, breaking street dates in September to meet public demand for the title. In the game's debut weekend in North America, it sold 330,000 copies and reached 500,000 copies in less than 3 weeks. The momentum established in the game's opening weeks continued for months. Sony announced the game had sold 1 million copies in North America by early December, prompting business analyst Edward Williams from Monet Crespi, Hart & Co. to comment that Sony redefined the role-playing game category and expanded conventional audience with the launch of Final Fantasy VII. So, according to the Weekly Famitsu, which was the major gaming magazine of Japan, Final Fantasy VII sold 3.27 million units in Japan by the end of 1997. By the end of 2005, the PlayStation version had sold 9.8 million copies, including 4 million sales in Japan, making it the highest selling game in the Final Fantasy series. By the end of 2006, the bargain reissue of the game, had sold over 158,000 copies in Japan. The reissue of the game. So it's so popular that people are like, I don't care if I already bought this game, I'll buy it again.
Yeah.
By May of 2010, it had sold over 10 million copies worldwide. That's the reissue. 10 million copies. Between 2006 and 2010, 10 million copies.
I may or may not have had to buy a second copy because I burned through the disc.
Literally.
Yeah, literally played it so much that it got scratched and unplayable.
So, believe it or not, compact disc format, which was the original format of yeah, that's an ironic thought because you're not supposed to be able to have a laser that cuts a laser at the retail grade be able to cut through glassed plastic. That's what makes that ironic there, Mojo. But the compact disc format, believe it or not, it's physical age that causes the media to break down, not laser use, if that makes sense. The interior inside of a compact disc is actually an interior of effectively aluminum with laser etching, which is where the data is stored. I'm not sure if I'm over explaining or if anybody even cares about the science behind it. But the aluminum inside a compact disc will actually degrade with age.
Yeah, also the the gray stuff can also degrade according to Mojo. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's in a game console that's above that has a constant temperature of right at maybe the point where it can soften the aluminum, then those etchings will go away.
Yeah, yeah.
Which would explain how Tierdeath was able to use his copy or wear out his copy.
Yeah, yeah. Basically what I said.
Oh, I thought you were arguing
Yeah, I did
against the
mention I had
possibility.
over 9. I had maxed out the timer, so.
Yep.
Eeh.
Didn't even have to be used. This room temp will ruin a disc after 20 plus years. Ooh.
Yeah, basically.
No wonder we got off of CDs. Well, the media changed the size, the storage demands increased beyond what we could do on a disc.
Yeah. Go from, what was it, 740 megabytes to 8 gigs if you do a dual layer DVD.
I was thinking even further back, like the first floppy disks were what, 786 kilobytes or less?
That was the 8 1/4. Yeah, that was the 8 1/4 discs.
I think some of the 5.5s were that way too.
I'm sorry, it was 5.5, not 8
Yeah.
1/4.
So 5.5 was the big ones, the literal floppy disks. 7.5. There
Yep.
we go. And then the 5 1/4 were
No,
the
let's
see.
3 1/4.
Whichever one it was that spawned the save icon in Word documents. That one,
Yep.
I remember that one being 1.4 megabytes. And
Correct.
That was the 3.5.
3.5. That was the dimension I was forgetting. But then it went from 1.5. Did anyone ever play with zip drives?
Tierdeath did.
What was the
Repeated.
what was the max size on those? Was it 5 megabytes?
Zip drive? No. You could have put more on that than you could a CD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was gigs. It was like, what, 5 gigs?
Okay. So going for so 3.5 with
There were
1.4
varying
gigabytes.
sizes. Let me confirm that. Sorry, there were varying sizes of zip drives,
Yeah.
and it was all magnetic. It was basically, it was a cassette tape full of magnetic storage. It was
Okay.
ridiculous.
So skipping that, the normies would go from floppy to CD. CDs had I'm trying to remember 720
720.
megabytes.
Yeah, CDs were only in megs.
Okay. So CDs became DVDs, which had 4.7 gigs, which then went to Blu-ray, which were 25 gigabytes.
Well, Blu-rays, but standard DVDs came out. Well, CDs were 720. Standard DVDs had 4 gigs, and then they did the dual layer, which was 8 gigs, and then they went to the Blu-ray, which was 25 gigs.
Right. And then by then we were getting into the point where we were looking at USB sticks that could do about the same, but then that ballooned pretty quick. I remember seeing 128 megabyte USB drives at my local Walmart and going, whoa. Nowadays I see that number, I'm like, wow, that's a relic.
Yeah. Well, thumb drives actually they actually have 512 gig thumb drives now, but then they have the little micro SD cards, which are also a couple hundred gigs, several hundred gigs.
So the point is that our need for higher and higher volume could be argued to have led to the downfall of gaming, because there's an infinite amount of room these days for games. You can make them as large as you want. You don't have to optimize them because the people will buy the storage. Except
Which leads to a theory that you and I have come up with a number of times.
Do you want to elaborate on that for the audience? Because I'm drawing a blank at the moment.
Okay, so you mentioning um, how now because we have effectively infinite storage, um, games are no longer optimized by game devs because they don't see a point to because people are just going to buy larger and larger storage pools. I think there's a conspiracy, and Mariner co-signed on it as well. I think we kind of co-developed the theory,
Yes.
this conspiracy theory, where manufacturers have been going behind the scenes and talking to game devs and just saying, "Hey, don't optimize your shit. Don't optimize your stuff. Force them to buy more storage." And
Or force them to
other
buy better graphics cards, or force them to buy better processors,
exactly.
or force them
You
to
know,
buy bigger monitors, higher resolution monitors,
yeah,
HDR
don't
monitors.
don't optimize because we want you to buy our new hardware.
I believe that's also referred to as planned obsolescence.
Yes, but no, because I still think that if it had not been for gaming driving advancement of technology and computers, that we would probably still be in an era of CRT monitors. You know, if that makes sense, if that fits the bill, so to speak. Um, I also like while on the one hand I appreciate the drive for advancement in technology because career
Drive.
field for that's been my career field for the past 2 decades. I also look at it and just shudder because with the advancement or with the accelerated advancement of technology, it has caused developers to get lazy in development and not really optimize that well. I
Meanwhile,
think that
yeah, we'll leave it there. But
I
I will cap this off by
yeah,
saying,
sure.
meanwhile, Nintendo, and we'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you, Turn Death and Hero, for coming again as usual.
Yes, yes.
And there will
Glad to be a
be,
part of it.
yeah, I will be streaming again tomorrow about 5 o'clock Eastern time, where we will attempt a second time to broadcast the ending of Mass Effect 3 Legendary Edition. And then Thursday night, I will maybe possibly do something on the Lagging Out stream. I'm not sure what yet. So tune in over on Lagging Out for that, 7:30 Eastern time. And then no Lagging Out live Friday or next Friday. So that'll be whatever I do Thursday night will be the last Lagging Out stream of the year. It'll also be the last stream I do for the rest of the year because I need some time off as well, desperately. So,
Oh, I can understand that.
yes. So, I thought 2023 was a hell of a year. This one beat that out in certain aspects. But in the meantime, enjoy Final Fantasy VII. Fair winds and fun gaming, y'all. Say goodbye, gentlemen. Or good night.
Bye-bye, gentlemen.
Perfect.
Have a good night, everybody. Happy New Year.
Yes. Bye, y'all. Oh, I'm going to try and stand by. I'm going to try and raid French fried toast for those of you still watching.
Good idea.